Hey guys, and welcome to The Future is Socialist, episode number 11, Trans Visibility Day. So we're going to be talking about trans issues today. Okay? All right. All right. So today is International Transgender Day of Visibility. It's an annual event occurring today dedicated to celebrating transgender people and raising awareness of discrimination faced by transgender people worldwide, as well as a celebration of their contributions to society. The day was founded by US-based transgender activist Rachel Crandall of Michigan in 2009 as a reaction to the lack of LGBT recognition of transgender people, citing the frustration that the only well-known transgender-centered day was the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which mourned the murders of transgender people, but did not acknowledge and celebrate living members of the transgender community. The first International Transgender Day of Visibility was held on March 31st, 2009. It has since been spearheaded by the US-based youth advocacy organization, Trans Student Educational Resources. In 2014, the day was observed by activists across the world, including in Ireland and in Scotland. In 2015, many transgender individuals participated in an online social media campaign on websites including Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Participants post selfies, personal stories, and statistics regarding transgender issues and other related content to raise awareness and increase visibility. And the White House has put out a has also put out a statement. We're going to see that now. Okay. A proclamation on Transgender Day of Visibility 2021. Today, we honor and celebrate the achievements and resiliency of transgender individuals and communities. Transgender Day of Visibility recognizes the generations of struggle, activism, and courage that have brought our country closer to full equality for transgender and gender non-binary people in the U.S. and around the world. Their trailblazing work has given countless transgender individuals the bravery to live openly and authentically. This hard-fought progress is also shaping an increasingly accepting world in which peers at school, teammates and coaches on the playing field, colleagues at work, and allies in every corner of society are standing in support and solidarity with the transgender community. In spite of our progress in advancing civil rights for LGBTQ plus Americans, too many transgender people, adults and youth alike, still face systemic barriers to freedom and equality. Transgender Americans of all ages face high rates of violence, harassment, and discrimination. Nearly 1 in 3 transgender Americans have experienced homelessness at some point in life. Transgender Americans continue to face discrimination in employment, housing, healthcare, and public accommodations. The crisis of violence against transgender women, especially transgender women of color, is a stain on our nation's conscience. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to fulfilling the promise of America for all Americans by stamping out discrimination and delivering freedom and equality for all. Yeah. We'll see about that. To ensure that the federal government protects the civil rights of transgender Americans, I signed on my first day in office an executive order on preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. Today, we are proud to celebrate Transgender Day of Visibility alongside barrier-breaking public servants, including the first openly transgender American to be confirmed by the United States Senate, and alongside patriotic transgender service members who are once again able to proudly and openly serve their country. We also celebrate together with transgender Americans across the country who will benefit from our efforts to stop discrimination and advance inclusion for transgender Americans in housing and credit and lending services, in the care we provide for our veterans, and more. To more fully protect the civil rights of transgender Americans, we must pass the Equality Act and provide long overdue federal civil rights protections on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. The Equality Act will deliver legal protections for LGBTQ plus Americans in our housing, education, public services, and lending systems. It will serve as a lasting legacy to the bravery and fortitude of the LGBTQ movement. Vice President Harris and I affirm that transgender Americans make our nation more prosperous, vibrant, and strong. I urge my fellow Americans to join us in uplifting the worth and dignity of every transgender person. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim March 31st, 2021 as Transgender Day of Visibility. I call upon all Americans to join in the fight for full equality for all transgender people. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 31st day of March in the year of our Lord 2021 and the independence of the United States of America, the 245th. Joseph R. Biden Jr. So we'll see if Biden follows through with this. I mean, he is an interesting president who I think will help us with trans visibility. So this is a good thing. Okay. Now let's move on to some history of trans visibility. Okay. It's important that we know about trans people. It's important that we know about their history so we can go forward and help trans people more and love them more. The history behind International Transgender Day of Visibility. Okay. Rachel Crandall Crocker, the creator of International Transgender Day of Visibility, wanted people to have a moment of happiness. So she made a Facebook post encouraging people to organize festivities in their hometowns and started messaging accounts from all over the world. It was worth a shot. I'd been wanting there to be a special day for us for a long time, she recalled, and I was waiting and waiting for someone else to do it. And then finally I said, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm going to do it. It was 2009. And at the time, the only annual event that most transgender communities had was nothing to celebrate. In 1998, Rita Hester, a Black transgender woman in Boston, was brutally stabbed in her own apartment. Transgender women were tired of being targets and done being dismissed by the press, which misgendered Hester. They marched through Hester's neighborhood and Transgender Day of Remembrance, TDOR, a day honoring transgender homicide victims, was born. Crandall times attended the community funeral. She felt it was important, but when she did, it left her depressed for up to a week afterward. I wanted a day that we can celebrate the living, and I wanted a day that all over the world we could all be together, she said. So Crandall Crocker, who had lost a marriage when she came out and a job as a psychotherapist when she transitioned, decided to create the day herself. March 31st would be International Transgender Day of Visibility. The date wasn't significant as much as it was convenient. It was far enough away from TDOR in November and Pride Month in June that it wouldn't conflict with either. From her home in Michigan, she organized a panel just outside of Detroit. Maybe people would come or see the Facebook post and hold their own events, she thought. Crandall Crocker now talks about those early days with near disbelief. Millions of people now recognize March 31st as a day to celebrate transgender people worldwide. Every major LGBTQ rights organization recognizes Transgender Day of Visibility with community gatherings, panels, and celebrations. Skyscrapers across the nation light up with the light pink, blue, and white transgender pride colors on the day. Transgender Day of Visibility is a spark of hope, said Nia Clark, a Black trans woman. It's just signaling to others that we are here and there are more than just one of you, that there are resources out there, that there are people in existence who would also just like you. Clark, 37, works as a child welfare consultant and is a Point Foundation scholar, a prestigious LGBTQ college program. Because she works with kids, she was nervous to be out as a trans. But 2 years ago on Transgender Day of Visibility, she posted about her own journey coming out as a trans on social media. I just remember the outpouring of support from others who I'd never really talked to, she said. One thing about trans folks is sometimes we are so afraid to even talk about our gender identity with cisgender friends. Andrew Jenkins, vice president of the Minneapolis City Council and the first out Black trans elected official in the country, says these conversations about trans people living vibrant and full lives are critical, especially in this moment. Jenkins notes that 44 transgender people were murdered in 2020, the highest number ever recorded. We don't want to just wallow in this, Jenkins said. We also want to acknowledge the reality that our lives are beautiful and matter. Then the less people are able to say, oh, I don't know a trans person, or I don't think people need to recognize the humanity of trans and gender nonconforming people. This year's Transgender Day of Visibility comes at a particularly trying moment for gender diverse people in the United States. More than 80 anti-trans bills are pending in state legislatures, according to the Human Rights Campaign. Most of these bills would limit trans youth from playing sports and accessing affirming medical care. For many trans kids, their first introduction to transgender community had long been a day honoring transgender murder victims. While it was a time of gathering, it was also a stark reminder that living as trans often came with an expiration date. TDOR is always far more emotionally significant, more poignant, because so many trans women, especially Black trans women, succumb to violence, knowing that the life expectancy of a Black trans woman is 35, Clark said. But Transgender Day of Visibility gave kids another narrative to grow into, advocates say. Esme Silverman, 19, is a high school senior in southeastern Massachusetts, the same state where Hester's murder inspired Transgender Day of Remembrance. Still, she learned about Transgender Day of Visibility before she knew of the day's more somber cousin. Silverman was 17 at the time, not fully out in her community, and her school's Gay Straight Alliance was celebrating the day. I was just sort of like, wow, this is something that we need to uplift and celebrate more of, because if there is a day like this, and if other trans people feel like the way I felt when I didn't have any support, then this day needs to be uplifted, Silverman said. Everybody deserves to be visible, including trans people. Here are some photos. Transgender Day of Visibility, 9 famous transgender rights activists and allies. The Human Rights Campaign is among the growing number of groups advocating for increased transgender rights in the United States. Here's 8 people who have spoken out in favor of transgender rights. Laverne Cox, a trans woman, has won numerous awards for her acting and her activism and has been outspoken about Supreme Court decisions and legislation around transgender discrimination. Rachel Levine, the first openly transgender person to be confirmed to federal office by the U.S. Senate, serves as an assistant secretary at the Department of Health and Human Services under the Biden administration. During her confirmation hearing, Levine spoke about the need to understand transgender individuals' medical needs and the overall lack of access to medical help in the transgender community. Actor Elliot Page came out as transgender in December 2020, announcing his new pronouns and name via Twitter. He later appeared on the cover of Time magazine, becoming the first openly transgender man to do so. In the Time interview, Page stressed the importance of cisgender people educating themselves on transgender lives, rights, and medical needs. Thank you. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you. Caitlyn Jenner's transition was publicly documented on E's Keeping Up with the Kardashians. On a famous cover of Vanity Fair magazine, Jenner debuted her name to the public. Jenner's identification as a Republican sparked controversy within the LGBTQ plus community, but she spoke publicly against U.S. President Donald Trump's policies involving transgender people in 2018. Gina Rosero is a model and activist who is also a transgender woman. She is the founder of Gender Proud, an awareness campaign for transgender individuals. Her milestones include being one of the first transgender models to be featured on the cover of Harper's Bazaar magazine. Congratulations. She is beautiful. Oh my goodness. Look at that face. Chaz Bono, the only child of Sonny Bono and Cher, has been a longtime advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. Bono's representatives announced the beginning of his transition publicly in 2009. Congratulations to Chaz. Cher, mother of Chaz Bono, is also well known for her LGBTQ plus support on top of her award-winning vocals. She became an outspoken ally for transgender people after Chaz completed his transition in 2010. What a good mom. This is what parents need to do for their trans children. They need to support them, love them, make them feel comfortable, make them feel loved. Mara Kiesling is the founder and executive director of the National Center for Transgender Equality, based in Washington, D.C. Kiesling's appearances on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and C-SPAN have helped her become more recognizable as a voice for transgender rights. Ryan Casada is a singer-songwriter and performer well known for speaking at high schools and colleges about gender identity and transgender rights. So that was amazing. I didn't know there were so many famous transgender people. That's awesome sauce. And while I'm not transgender, I do have friends that are transgender. I have friends that are transitioning right now, who have transitioned or who are not in the process of transitioning. And it is very important that we actually support our trans brothers and sisters. Their life is hard enough. We need to make everybody's life is hard enough right now. Okay, let's just say that straight up. Everyone's life is hard right now. So why can't we just be nicer to each other and love each other and do good things for each other? Okay, I've been going through a really hard time. I don't know how many of you know, or if you've seen my previous videos from a few years ago, but I have metastatic cancer, and that is why I got really sick on Sunday. I was really, really sick, and I today was the first day since Saturday that I've been able to eat anything solid, and I only had a few bites of a little bit of food. So I have been just freaking out, like physically, my body's been freaking out, emotionally, that I am really freaking out about what's going to happen to my body. And I can relate to transgender people because they feel a lot of the same way about their body that I feel about mine. And 5 years ago, I had a double mastectomy. Do you not think that that changed the way I felt about my body? Of course it did. Of course it did. So I am here to tell you that we can love each other. Like, this is not impossible, that transgender people are just like you and me. Non-binary people are just like you and me. So what? They don't identify with either gender. Is that hurting you? Literally, like conservatives, is that hurting you? Does that have anything to do with the way that you live your life? It doesn't. It has nothing to do with you. Trans people deserve to live. Point blank. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. End of story. Like, get over it. Trans people have been around for all eternity. This is nothing new. Do you think that every time you went into a bathroom that there wasn't a trans person at any point in a public bathroom that you've ever been in? Did you get raped by that trans person? No, you didn't. There is no actual evidence that anyone has ever been raped by a transgender person in a bathroom. This is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And let's talk a little bit about the attacks on transgender athletes in high schools and colleges. Look, when a boy transitions into a girl, he takes hormones that changes his body from going into being a male body into a female body. This is what the hormones are for. You don't give hormones to an 8-year-old. No one does this. They're not in puberty yet. It's only when puberty blockers are just there to stop puberty from happening so that you have a longer time to decide if you are actually wanting to transition or not. Not every trans person transitions. They don't. But we need to be available and hold space for these people. It's important that they live. They have value. We can see that they have value. I just showed you 9 people who have given us the value of showing what transgender people can do. This is really important. It's really, really important. And I'm working myself up, and I need to settle down a little bit before I get myself sick again. And I've got a comment here. Mr. Gerardo says, do you really mean the future is socialist? Well, yes, Mr. Gerardo, I really do want the future to be socialist. Okay. And by that, yes, I do. So I want a socialist world, because in a socialist world, we take care of each other. It's not really that difficult. It's called a workers state. It's a workers state. So all the workers have the power, not, billionaires getting rich, like they have during the pandemic. We saw 600 more billionaires in the US in 2020 during a pandemic. I mean, I cannot believe that I'm actually saying those words. It infuriates me. It makes me want to run screaming down the street. It's very bad. So yes, I want the future to be socialist. Of course I do. Why wouldn't you? I would like, if you want to come on air and talk to me about it, we can talk about it. Okay? But as for now, I am done. So happy Trans Visibility Day to all of my trans brothers and sisters. Know that I love you. I see you. I hear you. And I'm here for you. So you know what? Never feel alone. Never feel afraid. Call me. Come to see me. I will always have your back. I will always love you. It doesn't matter what you identify as. I don't care what you can identify as, a crocodile for all I care. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to love all of you. I want to love everyone. Everyone. Everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves a home. Everyone deserves healthcare. That's socialist. I want everyone to have those things. I want everyone, because I love everyone. Okay, I'm getting upset, so it's time for me to go. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for making me feel better. Thank you for all the love and support. You guys are amazing, and I really, really appreciate you. All my love. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and make sure to tell the trans people in your life that you see them, you hear them, and you love them. Goodbye.